So now that we have a front end and a back end, we want to start building this around Docker. And so we make this Docker compose file, and we're going to specify here all the different containers that we're going to be using for our project. So we want to make sure that we use version 3.7, and the first service that we're going to add is MySQL. So we're going to call this container name MySQL. We need to open up port 3306 on both, and so the colon there means that you're mounting the 3306, you're binding that to the host. We want to use the image MySQL colon 5.7, so that will pull it from Docker Hub. So then we want to make sure that we always restart it. So if the container ever crashes, it'll just start back up again. Next, there's this environment block. And so these will be environmental variables. So we want to specify what the default database will be. In this case, it will be Prisma. And then also what the default password will be, which will also be Prisma. Obviously, in production, you would want to use something more secure. And so the next line is volumes. And we want to create a volume here between this var lib MySQL folder. We're going to create a volume at that location. It's going to be called MySQL. So now that this part is done, we want to do the Prisma. And so we have these links and depends on because we want to make sure that MySQL and Prisma can talk to each other. We want to name the container, and we want to open up port 5555. And so this will be the Prisma Studio website that we can go to. Next, there's a build section. And so in a little bit, we're going to be creating these Docker files, which will talk about how to build these containers. And so now we're just kind of telling it where that root file will be, folder will be for that particular project and what the file name will be. We then want to create a Prisma volume so that any files that get installed there will save between the build step and the run step. Now we can go onto the back end, and so we want to link the back end to the MySQL database. We want to expose port 4000 because that's going to be the port that this web server is running on. We want to have some build steps here that match kind of what we did before, where so the root folder is going to be backend in this case for our backend, and it's going to be looking for this Docker file in order to build up our container. And now we want to create a couple different volumes. And so one is going to be creating a volume between our backend folder and this folder called app, which is in the container. And so this ensures that if we change files, that it'll get kind of sucked up into the container. The next two lines are to make sure that any files that get during the build step and node modules in Prisma will get saved between the build and the run. So we'll have all our dependencies there when we run our container. And so for the front end, it's similar in that we name the container. We now are opening up port 3000, and we're now specifying that our build folder is called the front end, and it will be looking for this Docker file. And we have to make sure that we create a volume then between the front end folder and our app folder. And so then the final step is that we need the MySQL volumes that we specified up above. We need to specify kind of down below is this volume. So now we want to go to the package.json, and we want to add some scripts to make it a little bit easier for us. So we'll have a start, which is just docker compose -up, build, which is docker compose build, and stop, which is docker compose down. We also want some kind of cleaning steps so we can remove old containers and old volumes if we ever need to kind of clear it out. And we're also going to put a line for seeding so that there's this seed file in the backend where we can actually have default users and posts and stuff to be able to populate the database with. So we won't be using it here, but it's just a nice convenience thing to have.